Hey guys, guess what? It's Thursday. It's From the Stands time. I've got my illustrious panel here with me tonight. We do not have OJ Simpson on the crowd tonight, so I'm glad to say that we'll all live through the night. Anyway, I'm Ashley Renfro, Ash from the Stands. Glad to be here again this week. Missed y'all last week. Let me let these two gentlemen introduce themselves, Mikey and Go.
Hi, I'm Mikey Rundown, Oklahoma fan here in Norman, Oklahoma. Living out my dream of being a student here. Username Mikey from the Stands. So we'll go on to the next one.
Hey guys, I'm Bo. I'm sure you recognize me from a couple of these other episodes. Birmingham native. Went to the University of Alabama.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Living it up here under Saban. And let's go ahead and get this show on the road there, Ash.
Fantastic. Bo, I like your name. Have you ever won a Heisman or been thought of as one as an 18-year-old?
Yeah, there was a couple of years there in high school
Touch and
where people
go,
thought that I would
I can see the resemblance from here.
Touch and go.
Look, man,
Touch
Bo
and
knows.
go.
That's all I'm saying.
That's right. He actually, Bo Jackson from McAdory High School down here in Bessemer, about 15 miles from Birmingham. Legendary Auburn running back, and that's all I'll say about him. Okay. So a couple things this week here we want to hit on a few little different things, and really the biggest thing to me is I'm just glad to be back this week. I'm gonna be sober this week, people. I'm drinking Diet Coke straight. So tonight,
You can mixer straight.
Yep. No. Biggest thing is I do plan on leaving on my pants this week, so you're all welcome for that. Let's go here. Quick week 6 recap. This is interesting. Some big things happened last weekend. A few teams didn't play anybody, but a few teams did. And Bo, I'd like to hear your recap and what you learned last week.
Yeah, my big thing is Florida's defense looked super elite. I feel like it's every time I come on the show, I'm talking about a different SEC team that's not Alabama. But Florida really shut down Bo Nix, and I thought Bo Nix had been doing a pretty solid job throughout the season this year. And, I'm going to talk a lot about them later when we get to the LSU Florida game. But one of the things that I thought that Florida just did really well, they're leading. I think they lead the league in takeaways. I think they're a top 10 defense, if not
Phenomenal.
one of the better ones. I mean, they're just they've got some really great talent. Very, very some great leadership in the backfield. Their DBs are some of the best in the nation, and obviously, I'm sure everybody's seen the ESPN stuff talking about DBU and how it's either Florida or LSU, and they're jawing over it all damn week, but. I really, really do think that Florida is just a super elite defense, which I think is really funny because Dan Mullen is an offensive mind and has been throwing offense all his time here. But his defense is what's got him in the conversation right now.
It's amazing. I mean, some teams you say take on the identity of their coaches and everything, and this is like the opposite. I would expect Will Muschamp, South Carolina team, to be lights out defense, and I don't know if they're good at anything, frankly. But Mikey, what about you, man? What did you have last week as your takeaway, man?
Well, there's a couple things, but the one thing in the Big 12 I really wanted to talk about was that Texas Tech Oklahoma State game.
Ooh,
what happened there?
Well, sorry, man.
Sorry,
Will's
Will.
not dead.
Oh yeah, obligatory. Sorry,
Will.
But clear, I mean, I have to rag on it a little bit. I mean, Oklahoma. I was convinced that Oklahoma State should have walked over Texas Tech, but
I would have thought so. Yeah.
I don't know what to think of the Big 12 right now.
All the hype. I mean, there's been a lot of hype around them too. Just like, oh yeah, they're gonna be real good this year. And
I think because the game with Texas, a lot of people thought they would be better than they thought beforehand. But
again, it's Schrodinger's Texas. We're not sure if Texas is back yet.
So OSU is kind of your takeaway. Oklahoma State, the OSU, I guess. That's your takeaway. Just not sure, really, huh? What to expect of them?
Yeah, Texas Tech fans are sure happy. Oklahoma State fans are in a weird sense of limbo right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's strange. We'll ask Will about that more next week. Who the hell knows? They might win big this week.
Yeah.
Let's jump into it here a little bit. Before I do, got to do our obligatory social media read. Hopefully you guys are finding us online. Of course, we're on Facebook. Of course, we're on Twitch. Of course, everywhere else you see right there on the screen. We're available for you. We do this for you, the fans, okay? We'd like to get a little bit more coverage. We'd like you to read a little bit more, watch a little bit more. So join us sometime on demand. Go find us. Enjoy the show and everything. I guess that's all I'll say about that. We've got some bigger things coming up, though, right here. A couple of big games. I want to jump to the Saturday noon.
Saturday noon,
That's a big
Oklahoma,
slot.
Texas.
That's gonna be a big game.
Mikey, kick us off. I think I gave it the break there. I hope everybody liked the little caricature cartoon, whatever that's provided to us by Will. Appreciate that, bud. Funny as hell. Go on Oklahoma, Texas, Mikey.
Well, I'm gonna be down there. Anyone
No,
Never would have guessed.
no.
Oklahoma student going
Oh
to the
my
game.
Oh man, it even if the game doesn't turn out to be as good as we think it's going to be, I'm sure just the environment is going to be off the charts this year as opposed to other years because of all the hype around it.
It
You've got
is.
the two top 11 teams right now going at it in one of the biggest rivalries you've seen in college football. I don't care what you say about the Iron Bowl.
It's not what we say; it's what Jalen Hurts says. Okay?
Yes, that's what Jalen. Yeah, to Jalen, this is like another Tuesday, really. But
Well, I'm gonna piggyback off this because, in my opinion, I think that Jalen Hurts is the Heisman front runner right now. In my mind,
Same.
The numbers
I
are there.
know,
The numbers
I know
are there.
that that's, blasphemy coming from a Bama fan, and that, Tua should be my favorite or whatever. But damn it all, if Jalen Hurts, here's my thing about Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has a mentality that I don't think anybody else in the game really has. I think he's probably the most tenacious player in the game. I
Yeah.
think that mentally there is nobody who can top him. You can look at any of the other quarterbacks out there, and I don't think that anybody plays the mental game as well as Jalen Hurts.
That's
And
right.
that's something that we saw at Alabama. Jalen was
Mhm.
always the bounce back guy. As soon as he made a mistake, he wouldn't get in his head about it. He'd be right back out there. And he never was shaken in big situations. Freshman leading a team to the national title game. Yeah, they lost, but he just, a couple freshman mistakes, whatever. I mean, like, that game could have gone either way. And
Yeah.
so Jalen Hurts, in my mind, has the mentality to come in here and beat the ever-loving snot out of Texas, in my opinion. I don't
think that's what's
necessarily
gonna
think it's
happen.
going to be that close, because I think that Sam Ehlinger is going to do some great things on the ground, and they're going to be able to kind of at least keep up. But I don't see this being – I think Texas is going to fall behind and stay behind a lot of this game. And I think that Oklahoma is going to be able to score as many points as they want, and I just think that that's what's going to happen. Anytime Texas scores, Oklahoma is going to score too.
It strikes me that when you mentioned Sam Ehlinger, how much the two of them really are alike. I mean, Jalen and Sam, they really do have similar tool sets and do some of the same things. It's just that Sam's played on some teams maybe didn't have supporting cast around him sometimes.
I'm gonna disagree with you there, Ash.
Really?
Yeah, they've got similar tool sets, I guess, but the way that Jalen Hurts runs the ball, I think, is what sets him apart from a lot of people. And Sam Ehlinger runs the ball, but Sam Ehlinger's a big bruiser. Jalen Hurts has the finesse. He's got the cutting skills. He's like a running back.
Yeah.
He's slippery. He gets past people very easily. He can cut very well. He has really great field vision. Again, I can't sing Jalen's praises enough. I think he's one of the best football players out there. And I mean,
he's in the right system too.
It's times like these I love Alabama fans.
Look, I get it. I mean, it's just one of those things where you have to recognize the talent that's there. And the only reason that he's not Alabama's quarterback right now is because he didn't have the ability to throw the ball as well as Tua back when he was at Alabama. He's obviously been working on that and has succeeded, grossly succeeded at that in this Lincoln Riley's scheme here. I mean, he's a complete player, and I think he's the Heisman front runner at this point in time. I think he would win it if we were handing out the Heisman tomorrow, but we'll see how it goes for the rest.
Is Tagovailoa your number 2, I wonder?
I guess. I want to see Tua do something in bigger games.
Yeah.
And the problem
we need
with
to see
Tua
the competition come up some.
He's got the thing with Tua is he's got a lot of talent around him. And so that's going to detract from him because there are wide receivers around him that can do amazing things with the ball.
Yeah.
So
nobody ever heard of CD Lamb, did they? All right. So moving on though, the other big noon game here, Memphis and Temple. Now this one doesn't compare. I know when you're watching this right now, you're thinking Memphis and Temple, Oklahoma, Texas. What level is this right here? But Bo, give me a little bit on Memphis Temple, and Mike, I'm gonna make you work. I want to hear something out of you too. Go, Bo.
So my thing about Memphis Temple, both teams look actually pretty solid. I'm gonna give Temple a little bit of an edge. I know that people are saying Memphis is probably gonna win this game, but I'm giving Temple a little bit of the edge just because it's at Temple, which I think is gonna play into this game. Mm-hmm. And I also think that Temple has a little bit more of that tenacity. We've seen Temple get some bigger wins. Yeah. Memphis hasn't really been tested. I don't think Memphis has a great offense, but they haven't really been what's their biggest win? Ole Miss? And Ole Miss is nothing.
And that was by like 2 or 3, I think, pretty close.
Yeah, that was the first week of the season.
Should game day have gone to Philadelphia?
No, I mean, obviously not. There's way bigger games to be watched. Right. But I do think that this is going to be a close game, and I think Temple is going to be able to pull it out just because I think that they've got a little bit of a better D. They've got the tenacity, the mental toughness to get in there, get it done, and it's at home for them. I think it'll be a Temple win here.
Hell of a game. What about you, Mike? What's your opinion on Temple and Memphis Tigers?
Yeah, I feel like on a neutral site, I might go with Memphis.
Like a bowl game setup or something.
Yeah, completely neutral site because their win against Navy really won me over for them. I think Navy this year is going to be one of those surprising teams that is quite good when everyone thought they weren't going to be. And the way Memphis had a pretty convincing win against them was really nice. Temple, yeah, they've got some good wins too, but there's nothing really there except the Maryland game that gave me anything to think about. Since it's at Temple, I'm gonna go with Temple just because that home environment, especially in these smaller games, adds a whole lot to that conflict.
Yeah. So no question about it. The shooter, we got the Sooners, and of course the chaser. We're going with Temple, which is really weird to say, but whatever. All right, we'll move on there. So we got a little special segment right here, and it's really we come to you with our hats in our hands here, a place of it. That's right, a place of reverence for what was once the University of Central Florida Golden Knights. So if you're a UCF fan, you may want to fast forward over this section right here. We're going to go ahead and give a eulogy for UCF, and I want to hear Mikey's. And again, moment of silence, please, for UCF.
UCF football hype is gone but not forgotten, mainly because internet boards won't stop talking about UCF in 2017.
Very nice, Bo.
What was the final streak? Was it 25?
Something like that, 25, I think. Yeah.
24, 25, something like
25
that.
25 or 26. I know it's at least 25.
Okay.
Regular season games, of course. Regular season.
Right.
Because LSU spanked that ass in the bowl game.
The bowl game.
Yes.
So here's my thing. This week I saw a little article which Josh Heupel, I think is how you pronounce his last name.
Heupel.
Excellent.
He spoke the age-old adage of adversity is not what defines you. It's how you handle adversity that defines you. And I think that really holds true here because UCF's now really going to have to decide how they're responding to this adversity, especially because with the loss to Cincinnati, they don't really have a shot unless they're no longer in the driver's seat, at least, to win their conference and win that title there. And really that means that they've lost all their national relevance. I mean,
quickly.
I just don't think that they're going to have much of. I think that this is the end of the UCF scream about it era. So
man. my version is that the frost is indeed off the pumpkin now in Orlando, and what I mean by that is piggybacking off of Bo. The Scott Frost era players are slowly whittling down. After this year, after next year, certainly you're probably going to have very little left on there. Bring back Mackenzie Milton. God knows, I hope that guy comes back and plays college ball again. Phenomenal athlete. We may all be eating a hell of a lot of crow served on a Golden Knight plate next year. But I got a feeling that I'm with Bo. This thing's sliding downhill from here, and they'll probably have to hire Charlie Strong to finally kill it. But they eventually will get there. He's almost done at USF, I think. So, all right, that's kind of want to wrap that up. And again, UCF fans, don't take it personal, okay? Because we sure as hell don't.
I, for one, actually love UCF, so of course it's not all bad. You got me on your side. We've got our
reasons. There's a guy down there, I hear. Nebraska fans liked him for a while, too. Now they don't care. So 3:30, all right? So now we're moving into this, prime time of the day. Stuff's starting to crank up. If you're already about halfway through a suitcase of Natty Light at this point, maybe switch to Bush. I've found that the heartburn isn't as bad. There again, I'm a man. I'm 40, and so I have that problem. No one else in the room does. Michigan State for our shooter here. Michigan State at Whiskey. Bo, I got to hear from you, man. This is interesting.
Man, you've really got alcohol on the brain, don't you?
I'm a little bit in denial here. I have Corona Lights in the fridge, but I'm staying sober, damn it.
Yeah, so Michigan State, Wisconsin here. I've got Wisconsin pretty much all the way. Wisconsin's playing the type of football that I love to watch. Big, strong defenses, smash mouth running the ball. It's honestly, obviously being an Alabama fan, it's been my favorite for a long time. And Alabama doesn't really look like that anymore, so don't get my fix.
No.
So I'm really enjoying the Wisconsin games, and I think that Wisconsin's pretty much going to beat the pants off of.
Yeah, I agree. It's Badgers all day and everything.
Yeah,
Mikey, your take, man.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan State, from what I've seen, they've had a really good defense. Some people have called them one of the best defenses in the country. I might agree with that, but we'll see how the season goes.
Right.
But this Wisconsin,
I feel like there's a lot of people who throw that around, though. I mean, I heard it at the Oregon game. I've heard it at, a lot of these different teams. Oh yeah, we've got the best defense in okay, sure, yeah,
Well,
all right.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I think this Wisconsin offense is one of those that, it's a defense buster. They've got the manpower, they've got the scheme.
That's a great
I
point.
don't
Yeah.
really see a whole lot stopping Wisconsin. The only real way you can stop Wisconsin is, if you can penetrate their defense and you find some way to get a few stops. That's sort of like what you see.
Well, and that's my thing too, because Wisconsin's going to be able to control the clock better than anybody who's throwing the ball a bunch. You look at Ohio State, you look at Alabama, you look at LSU. There's not a lot of run game that's necessarily been emphasized in those teams. And so seeing Wisconsin with a strong running game, they're going to control that clock really well.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be another thing that you're going to be fighting against playing a Wisconsin, trying to beat the clock as well as, making sure you have enough time to score if they score.
Yeah.
Because they're just going to try and control it.
Wisconsin's interesting. I mean, they're the worst team in the NFC Central. Okay. And the point is that if you put them against a defensive football team, like maybe the Chicago Bears or somebody like that, you imagine what that would look like. I mean, I love this kind of football too, man. I really do. And so you guys take your pick there. You got one of you guys has got Wisconsin. I know the other, both of you Wisconsin.
I'm going with Wisconsin too. Yeah.
Yeah. Badgers all the way. Well, that was the shooter. For the chaser though, this one promises to be a hell of a lot more fun than Memphis Temple. And it's Washington State at Arizona State. Mikey, what do you got there, man? You got some insight on this?
This could either be one of the most exciting games of the weekend or one of the sloppiest games of the weekend.
The Pac-12 continues to devour itself.
Yeah, Washington State with their air raid. It's one of those offenses where either you're scoring 70 or you're going 3 and out. Like, there's really no in between. Arizona State, from what we saw in the Michigan State game, again, they had a real big showing on defense. If they can find a way to shut down the Washington State offense, even for just like maybe a quarter, even, I think that would be enough to really, because Washington State's defense, from what we saw in the UCLA game,
it was
not much of it.
Great start to college basketball season, wasn't it? Yeah. I mean, that was phenomenal. I mean, that game, that's the definition of Pac-12 after dark, and I think we've covered that ad nauseum. But what even is UCLA, Bo? I want you to give us some more insight on that. I think in a few minutes. I think you had something you wanted to expand on there with chocolate chip Kelly.
Let me throw in a little something here with the Arizona State game, though.
Yeah, please.
I think Arizona State's shown some real serious tenacity. Big win over Cal, big win over Sparty, big strong comeback. Here's my thing. I see the defense making the stops it needs in this situation. I don't, the air raid offense is going to be difficult to stop, but ultimately I think a couple of key stops here or there, Arizona making the plays on offense, Washington State doesn't have any defense to speak of. And so I think ultimately I'm going to go with the upset. I think that Arizona State's probably going to win this one.
That's interesting. Pac-12 South becomes a little more clear then, does it not?
I think so. Well, no, I think it actually.
We don't know what to think about the
Honestly,
Pac-12.
I don't know what to think about the Pac-12.
In fairness, we never cover more than about 12 seconds of it. We've done more tonight than this show may ever do in its history. But
that's not true. 2 weeks ago. Go watch it. Lots of Pac-12.
Lots of epic. I recall I was there. We did talk a good bit about it and everything.
Me and JJ had our piece said.
It's interesting, but I mean, to me, the Pac-12 is, I said it in the offside before we started the show, that I just feel like they've regressed back to what other conferences were a decade, 20 years ago. And they've taken the run pass completely away, with the exception of Washington State, of course. So, I mean, Oregon State, what are they even doing? Are they fielding a team this year? I mean, Utah had high expectations. Most people thought that's your Pac-12 North winner possibly, and they've kind of been brought back down to earth. So it's going to be a compelling thing, but I think we can all sit still on one thing. There's probably not going to be a Pac-12 CFP representative.
Probably not. Well, and there's, call it what you want. Call it counterculture, call it catching up with the times, whatever you want to call it. Pac-12 needs to move themselves up and kind of catch up with everybody else, because it's just not, they haven't been relevant.
Yeah, it's a good point. And it's also a good lead into what we want to talk about next, which is something called a ruling on the field. So oftentimes you'll see a couple of shitty officials standing there. One of their kids goes to Vandy, the other one's stuck at Arkansas. And so they get into it over a flag thrown on the field by the coach challenging a call. And they come out and they say, we have a ruling on the field. Mikey, do you have a ruling on the field tonight? A topic, a team, a player, just something that you feel like needs clarity or needs to be settled?
Well, I mentioned before about what's going on with Oklahoma State, and I'd like to elaborate a little bit in what is Oklahoma State going to do post Gundy? Because from what I'm seeing, Gundy he's the greatest coach probably in Oklahoma State history. I don't think there's a whole lot of argument against that.
Yeah.
But it's been so long. I don't think he is the one who will really pull Oklahoma State into greatness. And that both is kind of nice and kind of sucks as an Oklahoma fan, because on the one hand, I love beating them, but on the other hand, like they're kind of like your little brother in that you want to see him succeed.
Yeah. It's interesting the relevance of Bedlam kind of drops off as Oklahoma State falls off. So the Red River rivalry this weekend becomes everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, Bedlam is still one of the most sought after games, around.
Right.
And some people go, well, yeah, Oklahoma State only won like 3 games this year. How much a ticket to the game? $200? Oh, all right.
What does it come with?
Yeah.
It's like everyone goes because it's going to be a good time for anyone. But yeah, Oklahoma State, they're kind of there's something lacking this year, and I think it's not just a down year. I think they might have to start looking forward, 5 or so years in the future and see what's going to go on. So yeah, if I was an Oklahoma State fan, sorry, Will, I got to pick on you this week for some reason, but
they're a big question mark. The expectations are that they're an 8 to 10 win team, I think, most years.
Yeah.
With only losses being maybe the in-state rival possibly and somebody else, but this year's panning out a little flatter.
Yeah, because Gundy's been there for a while. I don't know how much longer he'll be there.
I want to draw a little parallel to that. You look at Tennessee, Alabama. It's kind of the same sort of situation. You've got
close
a team
comparison, yeah.
Fallen off. The rivalry isn't really a rivalry at this point, but damn it all, if we don't want to go to that game and watch us kick the shit out of some orange.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, I mean,
I compare it more to Michigan State, because I think Michigan State is still very nationally relevant, and I think Oklahoma State has some national.
Has Michigan State been nationally relevant since we kicked the shit out of them in the
Listen, Mark D'Antonio would like a word with you after this, because he's got a deposition he has to give, and I think he's got a bone to pick with you, pal.
Yeah,
okay?
well, look, man.
Look,
they haven't even been in the CFP running.
But you stole his fucking coach. Okay, well, after LSU stole his fucking coach, and Miami stole. Never mind. No, we'll back it up. So is that your thought tonight? You got something you'd like to see settled?
No, yes. So one of my big settling things is UCLA. I don't know. They've been so up and down. They looked like, with that big win over Washington State, maybe that they were going to spark something, and then they lost another 2 games. I mean, they're 1-5 now. Chip Kelly is obviously not having a great time. But are we firing him? Are we getting rid of him now?
We're just not calling him. We're not breaking up. We're just not calling him.
I think we've got to pick up the flag here. I mean, it's just one of those things where I don't know if they're going to get any better with Chip Kelly, but I don't know if they're going to get any. Well, first off, I don't know if they can get any worse, but I don't know if they're going to get anybody else that's going to really be able to come in there and rebuild the program.
He's almost like a fat friend that you just want to friend zone now,
Kind of. Yeah. I mean,
we're not romantic, but I don't want him to go away,
Yeah. It's just kind of one of those things where it's like, we know he's good, right? But
he was phenomenal.
Yeah, he was good 5 years ago.
And so it makes me wonder, like, all right, well, has he just gone senile? What's the deal?
It's a possibility. He's no Brian Kelly, that's for sure.
That's my confusion factor. Maybe I'm picking up the flag here, but I don't know. UCLA needs to figure something out for sure.
Yeah. The Southern California teams there, and there's a lot of question marks. I think USC probably finds themselves in the exact same boat. I mean, walking into the season, it's like Clay Helton, your head's underneath the vice here if you don't perform, and all they've been is just kind of average. But
I think that's kind of a step in the right direction for them almost. Some stability. It gives them like an idea of where they need to go now. UCLA, I don't even think they have an idea of where they need to go.
No, well, and UCLA's recent tradition as well. I mean, or USC's recent tradition in football. They've been relevant in the last 20 years. The Bruins haven't. I mean, Troy Aikman would probably like a word, but they've just that's how long it's been. Okay, that guy was winning Super Bowls when I was in college? No, I was already out. Nah, I don't remember. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. I was drunk probably. So anyway, good points there, guys. I want to do another quick shout out to the social media folks. And Bo, will you hand it off, man?
Yeah, sure. We come out here, try and put out the best content that we can, and we'd love to get some interaction from you guys. So, get out there, check your Facebooks, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. We're all out there. We've got these social media sites. Interact with us. Put some content out there. Tell us that we're stupid. Tell us that we're not. Tell us that we've got it right on. I don't know. Just give us something to mess with, because damn it all, it's kind of boring doing this with no response.
It is. I mean, just favorite, just bookmark it right up there in your browser. I mean, you got
Yeah.
Pornhub, you got whatever, but make sure you bookmark us up there too, okay? Because this stuff's pretty good. There's no nudity, and it's not family
I'm still
friendly.
pushing for the calendar.
It's
We
not
will get
family
there.
friendly, but damn it, some of the Disney rides aren't either. So whatever. Thank you, Bo, for doing that, getting that shout out for the folks that matter. It's nighttime now on Saturday, and the stumbling around that you're doing is real. The toads that are living in your living room, purple, orange, green, they're not real. So it's time to look at what is. And the game in Baton Rouge in Red Stick between them and the Florida Gators. I'm going to get my SEC expert. So, Bo, you got to keep talking here. Go.
Hey, man, I could talk about this game for hours. This is going to be a huge one. We're going to see some real the cream is going to rise to the top here, because this one's Joe Burrow coming in here. He's had a great season so far.
Phenomenal.
I think he's got the best completion percentage in the league right now, on average. We've got Florida's defense, which looked dominant against Auburn and Bo Nix, who Bo Nix was no slouch. Bo Nix had been having a really great season as a freshman.
Yeah, indeed.
But, they've got some real good DBs back there. They've got some real leadership quality back there. And really, it's been what's keeping Florida nationally relevant, their defense. And so I am really excited to see how Joe Burrow reacts. One thing I'm also excited to see is, can LSU's defense mess with Florida's freshman quarterback now? He had, 3 fumbles last week, 2 of which were taken away by Auburn, one of which he finally fell down on.
Yeah, a little sloppy.
Right. But, I think that was also his first game, really, that he'd played in any significant portion. And so I think that Florida with Felipe Franks, this is a no-brainer. LSU's winning this. Mm-hmm. But now we've got this new guy leading the team. He's able to at least put them in. Auburn was no slouch on defense either.
No,
Auburn had a pretty tough defense.
Yeah, all respect to them. They're very physical. They're stacked.
Right. They have extremely strong defensive line.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I'm interested to see is LSU going to get that same push, and is LSU going to be able to get in their head? Obviously, going into Death Valley on a Saturday night is not what you want to be doing as a freshman. It's not what you want to be doing as a senior, but as a freshman, that's absolutely terrifying. And so we're going to see how he handles this. Florida's been talking like they're going to handle it fine. Florida says, they're not going to get in our head. We understand that it's going to be an extremely hostile environment. They've been talking about it all week, but it's one thing to say that, and then you get down there and you see what actually happens and what it's actually like. I mean, they register on the goddamn Richter scale.
It was impressive. It was impressive. They're a rowdy bunch. Hey, I'm going to ask you this. True or false? The winner of this game can win with 35 or less points.
Yeah. Well, okay. See, that's the other thing. It's either going to be a 50-point, blowout with LSU throwing up all the points and Florida trying to tag along, or it's going to be a slog and it's going to be a 10-7. It's going to be a 20. Because I think that
so
if
Joe
it
Burrow,
is a slog,
with all of his numbers, you think this could be a defensive game, and that was my point of asking you. I think you might be onto something.
Yeah, well, if it is a slog, I think Florida wins this game.
Yeah,
because
that's
I think
the kind of game they do well in.
Florida has the defensive prowess to really shut down LSU. They have the ability. Like, if it happened, I would not be surprised.
Yeah,
but LSU has extreme talent on the offensive side. Now, they haven't been able to get the running game going, which is something that I think that they're going to have to do if they want to beat
so
Florida.
different. It's so different to be
Because
talking about
if
LSU
Florida
and
is-
not talking about a Fournette, not talking about a
Well,
defensive.
and that's funny you should say that. Fournette's little brother left the team.
Indeed. Sees the
But he
writing
was-
on the wall, huh?
He was third string or something. I mean, he wasn't the starting
Apple
guy.
fell far from the tree, I guess.
Right. But I think that if Florida is able to stymie that offensive power, because unless LSU is able to make them respect the run, which I don't know if LSU is going to be able to do, then Florida is going to be focusing on that air raid type offense that they're dealing with. And Florida has shown that they can do a pretty solid job shutting down the through the air option.
They're obviously very physical on defense and can do some work against a quarterback. Mikey, I'd ask you to chime in here because your opponent this Saturday, the Horns, have one loss, and it is to these LSU Tigers. I mean, what can Florida do to LSU that Texas could not? Is there anything different there?
Well, let's see. Now we got the SEC out of your system. As a non-SEC fan, I wasn't totally sold on Auburn, and the outcome of the Florida-Auburn game means I'm not totally sold on Florida now.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Different take there. So I would go with LSU because they've shown.
But you are sold on LSU.
Well, they haven't given me any reason to not be. I mean, none of their games besides the Texas one were particularly close. I mean, they weren't great opponents.
That turned into a track meet in the second
half. The Oregon game wasn't enough to sell you on Auburn, is what you're telling me.
I don't think either side really great. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, I don't have as much SEC, knowledge as you two may have. I don't have all of this bank of wisdom that you've been storing for all of your SEC fandom lives. As my Big 12,
it's not an easy burden to bear. Okay, that's all I'll say about it.
For me, I would go with LSU just because they seem to be a more complete team and they look like they have a better idea of what everything seems to be like. Everything seems to be synchronized in rhythm right now. The offense is electric. The defense, it may not be the best, but it's pretty good. I mean, it has I haven't seen any reason to not be.
There's probably 3 guys on that defensive unit that go in the NFL's first round. At least 2, I know.
Yeah, that may well be the case. Florida, I think, just has a lot more question marks, and they could easily win because games are just like that. Any given Saturday, anything can happen, and it turns out, hey, maybe this Florida squad, as it is right now, could be amazing, but I think it's a bit of a safer bet to go with LSU.
Well, I appreciate your insight right there.
Well, and I think that it's going to be a tale of 2 games. Either it's going to be a defensive slog that Florida's going to have a pretty solid shot of winning, or it's going to be LSU pretty much handling the game. It's not going to be. There's not going to be. I don't think there's going to be a middle ground where there's a bunch of touchdowns, but it's back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
And although that's 2 very different outcomes you guys are talking about right there, I think that it's easy to say you could nail it down as to one of those 2 outcomes. Obviously, it's a 50-50 flip. Who will win, LSU or Florida, right? It's only 2 teams competing, but there's going to be one of 2 ways that either one can do it. Florida's got to slow it down and make it a low-scoring game, or LSU's they're going to LSU them.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and LSU could very well figure it out and win a low-scoring game. I mean, again, it's just a matter of can they establish the run. If they establish the run, then hell, LSU is going to be a real complete team.
Yeah, I definitely don't see a Florida 67, LSU 65, 3 overtime thriller. I don't see that. The overtime games are usually safe for LSU and Texas A&M anyway. I understand they're still playing this weekend from last year. But one more, the pacer for the night. I got to move us along here, but Penn State at Iowa. Mikey, you want to give us something here on this one, man? This is a great sounding game.
Yeah, this is going to be one of those where it's like the de facto, like it's a classic game that you can just watch and the average fan go, this is a pretty good game. Penn State hasn't really had any trouble so far, except with Pittsburgh, but Pitt has that weird voodoo energy they have where they seem to play close with random opponents, no matter how good. But other than that, they really haven't had any problems with their schedule.
They looked really good.
Iowa, on the other hand, they started off pretty strong. The El Assico was what we expected to be just the most confusing thing possible.
Oh,
And then they just really just ran out of gas in the Michigan game. Their offense just completely shut down. What was it 10-3? The score was.
yeah. It's one of those games. You ever heard somebody say, you hate that there has to be a loser? And that one, I hate that there had to be a winner. I mean, it was
it's
bad.
one of those where you go and go, yep, that's the Big Ten, all right.
It's entertaining football, and those of us in the South, that grew up with teams. There's been many Alabama games that were 10-9, 9-6, crap like that, and I was loving
there's definitely
loving every minute
of
of it.
Games, and it's great that the Big Ten has all of these games. But for me, I would have to go. Even though it's at Iowa, I think Penn State's really the one that's going to pull it out, just because they've convinced me more. They haven't shown any real reason to not be the better team.
They're stout.
Oh, I agree. I completely agree. Just for throwing a couple stats out there, Penn State is averaging 47 points a game, which is wild in my opinion. I think that it's
James
funny
Franklin's
because
team's got it going.
Penn State's 5-0, and we're not really talking about them as a contender. And they're averaging 47 points a game. They've got 305 pass yards a game and 194 rushing yards a game. I mean, those sound like great numbers. Now, obviously, some of the cream of the crop has even better numbers, but those are extremely stout numbers, and I don't think that I was going to be able to handle it. So I just think that Penn State's probably going to pretty much outright win this.
You guys think part of the reason Penn State at this point doesn't have the panache is one, because Ohio State's kind of in there, the bully in the room, but Penn State, do they have that player that stands out and says, this guy's going to get invited to the Heisman ceremony?
No,
nobody there.
So
there's nobody really there, and that's
a lot
unfair,
of the time. That's the better team. Because they're doing it without a star. They're doing it because of their team. They're doing it with the teamwork and everybody's hitting their assignments and doing the things that they're responsible for. And that's a lot of the times better than having a star player who is able to just kind of, make magic happen, because consistency is one of those things that can really help you win a title. So I don't know. I mean, Penn State's a sleeper.
As much as Florida doesn't look like Dan Mullen, I think Penn State looks very much like James Franklin. And I will definitely probably be looking for them to do some magic against Ohio State. Although I just kind of think Ohio State's kind of the Iron Curtain right now. They look to me like, outside of Oklahoma, outside of Alabama, they look to be the best. And I don't know what could stop them. Maybe they could beat the shit out of the Cleveland Browns.
It depends on which Baker you're getting.
I guess that's right. Coached by ex-Alabama quarterback Freddie Kitchens, known as Freddie Stay Out of the Kitchens. When I was in college there, I'm moving along, though. So we got something tonight called Intimidation Factor. And, man, I know you guys have seen the clips of Herbstreit and Fowler and the Bears sitting in there on the plane, obviously, enjoying after work their beverage, whatever it might be. But it seems like there's some hate being thrown toward the Texas A&M Aggies. And Bo's my SEC guy, but I got Mikey, who's a Big 12 guy, and that's where the fucking Aggies came from in the first place. So Mikey, lead off and give me something about this crap, about the intimidation of the 12th man and Kyle Field.
Yeah, I think what Herbstreit was getting at in a nutshell was, while Kyle Field and Texas A&M as a whole is they have a very strong fan base and a very sound environment for a football team. They are not. I think he was trying to get at that. For what they have, they are not as intimidating as they should be, and I am inclined to agree with him, because for me, looking at Texas A&M, I'm thinking that program should have everything. They have the location, they have the fan base, they have the stadium, the money, everything, and they may not go. They might go 500 this year, maybe only a 500 win-loss ratio. I just don't understand what is going on there. And I can understand him not being impressed by the home field advantage they have, because that's a huge stadium, and they should be a very rabid fan base. So why isn't it producing the results that they should be getting? Yeah.
I don't know, Bo. I can see you chomping at the bit. You got something here, don't you?
Yeah, so here's my thing. I have always been, beginning of the season, I was talking about this. A&M has probably one of the hardest schedules in
It's tough.
this season. I mean, just period. They lost to Clemson. They lost to Auburn. Those both of those games, and the Auburn game was what, 8 points? I mean,
Yeah.
both of those games were closer than I would have expected if it had been
28-20, I think it was, or something
Yeah,
like
it was
that.
28-20 for Auburn, and it was 10-24 for Clemson. I mean, they held Clemson to 24 points, one of the supposedly the most prolific offenses in the game right now.
Yeah,
24
I think
points.
they're still scoring on our beloved Crimson Tide right now. I'm not sure.
Right. I mean, here's my thing. A&M has a lot of talent, and they're not a team that is broken in any way, shape, or fashion, in my opinion. Yeah, they struggled against Arkansas, but they were coming off of a kind of a heartbreaking loss against Auburn. They thought that they were going to have a shot to really shoot up the rankings if they could beat Auburn and then, have a chance against Alabama. It didn't happen, obviously, but it's one of those things where they still were able to win. And I mean, you've seen them put up 62 points against nobodies, and
Lamar.
I just think you can't count them out like they're nobody. They're not nobody. They're a complete team. And yeah, they've struggled against some of the bigger, some of the tougher teams that they've played this season. But I mean, what do you expect? It's Clemson. Auburn, I still think, is one of the better teams this season. I mean, there's probably around 10 to 12 teams this season that I think are really stout teams.
I agree,
And
so
pretty much
18
any
and a
of them
half is the line for Alabama, Texas A&M Saturday. You think Alabama covers that?
Yeah, probably. I just think that
Mikey, what do you think they cover it?
I mean, yeah, I think they should blow them out. I mean, I am really not sold on this.
So Herbstreit's not wrong.
No, see, that's the thing. I respect A&M as a competitor, and I think that come Sunday, if we only won by 7 points, not very many people would be surprised, because A&M has the talent, and it's a home game. They've got the stadium, they've got the energy in that stadium to beat the pants off us if they want to.
I think so. I think they're quite good. I mean, I think the talent's there. Jimbo's coaching and talent and player development might be questionable.
I mean, he's a household name for a reason. He knows what he's doing, and I think that Alabama's going to cover the spread. Yes, I think it's probably not going to be a very close game, but that doesn't mean that I'm not scared every time I go down to Kyle Field that we're not going to get kicked around like Johnny Manziel did to us.
Yeah,
when he was running this show.
PTSD just kicked in.
Exactly. It's one of those things that Kyle Field I will always be afraid of going to Kyle Field. Not as afraid as going to, Baton Rouge or something like that, but it's an SEC game in a huge football stadium with a team that's not terrible. That's
gotta take A&M's fans out of it quickly, and I think if you can do that, my thought on it, as the other Alabama fan here in the room, no offense, Mikey, is that Alabama may give Mond the best of his season. He may have the best numbers he'll have the rest of this year against our defense.
Disagree completely.
But Tua will have 1,000 more, and it will be possibly a shootout type affair. It just seems like how Alabama's going to play this year. So, I mean, I totally could see a 51-35 type affair or something like that, where Alabama maybe doesn't cover trash points at the end has been a problem this year. You guys have any thoughts on that?
I don't know. I think that Alabama's DBs are pretty stout. I don't think they're the best DBs in the nation, but I think that they're pretty stout. I think our biggest weakness is going to be on the ground. We've got a lot of young guys at linebacker. Whether they step up and are able to really, this is going to be a great test for Alabama, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is.
I think that we're going to see something from the defense as to whether we're prepared to go all the way or not. So I don't know.
I like that. Good deal. Mikey, anything you'd add before we move to the late night shooters or shots and chasers? Or I'm really sober. I promise.
I'll take your word
for it. We believe you.
Let's go to it then. Anything, Mikey?
Since we're talking about the SEC for some reason, again,
we did that, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think Alabama should win it pretty handily. I don't think there's really much more to be said there.
All right. Well, speaking of handily, The Pac-12's at it again. Washington at Arizona for your 10:30 game. I mean, holy crap! What's going to happen here, Mikey? What you got?
Well, Washington's real interesting because people penned them as, probably probably should be the Pac-12, the top Pac-12 team. But, well, I mean, it may not be going as well as they hoped.
Yeah.
The football game was a heartbreaker. I mean, Arizona, they lost to Hawaii to open up, but since then, they've been doing fairly well. Nothing real convincing, though. Pac-12 after dark, it's impossible. It's impossible.
It is. I think that's the takeaway, Bo. I mean, do you agree? Who
Yeah,
knows?
here's my thing. I think that Washington hasn't shown the stability that they need to really make me think that they're going to beat Arizona. I think Arizona's a good team. Arizona's got more total yards a game. Arizona's got more total yards allowed a game. I mean, there's not going to be a lot of defense in this contest. It's going to really come down to who's throwing the ball better and who's really just able to score last, I think.
Who scores last? Yeah, but yeah. Chris Peterson at Washington's interesting. I mean, and it leads us to the next one. I mean, Peterson, all the success he had at Boise State, and that's our chaser tonight, is Hawaii at Boise State. I feel like the Chris Peterson thing is still kind of building at Washington, but the level of competition stepped up, believe it or not, joining the Pac-12 compared to what Boise saw every week. And so now you prove your mettle. And Washington should be a place you should be able to recruit to. So, Bo, what do you think about Hawaii at Boise State as our chaser? This thing's going to be on at like 4 o'clock in the
morning. Look, here's my thing. Sleeper, Boise State is one of the best teams in the nation. No, I'm just kidding. But wow. They are 5-0. So, indeed. I mean, in my opinion, I think Hawaii's shown us some stuff. I mean, they beat Arizona first week. They've definitely shown that it's possible for Hawaii to be a top contender within their league. But Boise State, it's at Boise State. I just don't think Boise State's going to lose that home game.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to say Boise State by a few.
Yeah. Mikey, you?
Yeah, because I'm real conflicted because I'm thinking I love this Hawaii team. I always love Hawaii team because the run and gun, whatever it's called, or run and shoot. That's it, run and shoot. The run and shoot offense is one of the most entertaining things about college football. Hawaii runs it really well. Their quarterback is perfect for that system. Really, the only problems they have are with turnovers, just because they just get
it's a byproduct of the system. Probably.
Yeah, they just get so gun heavy with it. The gunslingers. They just they just keep turning over the ball. Boise State, yeah, they're undefeated, but really, I haven't seen a whole lot that has made me get sold on them. They haven't had really many convincing
that FSU
wins.
win at FSU was...
I think that's more telling of FSU than it is of Boise.
I guess.
Point proven there. There's probably at that point the Noles were inept on holding a lead, and they still seem to every week, not be able to do it. I almost hate to go through a show without mentioning FSU, but I'll stop now.
Well, and here's the other thing. I think the Boise State's defense is a little bit better than Hawaii's. Boise State's got 300 yards allowed, and Hawaii's averaging about 390 yards allowed.
But I think that's more of a consequence of their high-scoring offense, because take it from
but both of them are averaging
scoring a lot. You're giving up a lot.
Yeah, but both of them are averaging 480 yards per game offensively.
You guys are making a point that I heard talked about on local radio here about the fact that they talked about Alabama's defense not being where it should be. And they talked about the fact that Alabama's defense is playing 80-some-odd plays a game because the damn offense is going out and scoring like that. Well, Oklahoma's defense is playing quite a lot too, and has for a long time.
You know what it feels like.
Yes, I was about to say it's like you've given us herpes or something. I don't know, but I mean,
look, we traded Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, we get Jalen Hurts. You get Mike Stoops. I feel like that's a fair trade.
Hard pass there. Okay, but it's interesting though. I mean, the fact that Hawaii, and I shouldn't beat on Hawaii and Boise State so much, but Hawaii's always been one of those teams score some points, give up a lot of points as well, and it's just kind of a function like the turnovers of an offense that is all about go go go. So. RPO, it has its limitations, I guess. What Hawaii's doing is not exactly that, but it's just, I guess, a root of it. So let's go to viewers' guides. and our picks, I guess, for the week and everything. So kind of have a look there, I guess, what's on the screen, which my screen just went blank, but we're back anyway. What do you guys got for me this coming up this week, Bo?
I mean, obviously, my go-to game is going to be the Florida LSU game. Got to watch that one. I think that it's going to be pretty tight. I think both these teams are going to be real strong, and I'm going to try and probably stay more sober than I normally do, just so that I can watch that game really intently.
Can we get a promise from you this time?
Oh yeah, it's 7 p.m. game. It's not like I'd be, it's not a 10 p.m. where I'm just going to be passed out on the couch.
I'm trying to turn over a new leaf. I just want you to know I'm not going to be responsible for destroying the family. Okay, I'm not going to be the one. Okay, Mikey, what about you, man?
Well, of course, I've got to rep the Red River Shootout. There's no way you can make me talk about any other game as being the game of the week. Yeah, Florida LSU, whatever. I don't care. I don't want to hear it. I'm going to go with the Crimson and Cream.
Yeah. I mean, if you start at the start of the season, I think most people would say Oklahoma and Texas had more implications on the national title line.
Sure.
Here we are now with LSU and Florida, and this week for both of them is the big tell-all and everything. So that's two really great ones right there. Of course, I'm going to be watching Alabama visits College Station and hoping the Tide can pull through on that and everything.
Sure.
But I also want to keep my eye on a few other things kind of going on around the country, and one of those, if I can just give me just 1 second here, because I got a funny statistic I want to give you on it here. And I didn't write it down, and that's
throwing out the statistics.
Well,
that's fresh. That's new.
Embarrassing and everything.
He's sober.
Virginia at Miami. We didn't talk about it at all. And the statistic here is that this game is at Miami, and Virginia, the last time they won in Miami, I was a sophomore in college. Can you guess the year?
1947.
Not 47, close. I'll be 81 this year, but thank you. It was 1995, actually. Virginia went down and beat Miami, and so that's the last time. They weren't even in the same conference back then, as you remember. Miami was Big East and everything, but it was a game, and on a Thursday night, Virginia took them down. So that's going to be an interesting one right there, I think, that we didn't even really mention. And college basketball is starting in Kentucky. So last thing here, let's close up shop here for the night and everything. Appreciate everybody watching. Fun as always to get with you and everything. I want some Sunday storylines. Mine is whatever bad happens the rest of this week, tomorrow, Saturday, Trump gets the blame for it. What do you got, Mikey, for a Sunday storyline?
Well, the obvious one is going to be our OU, Texas, LSU, Florida, any combination of those four. Are they legit? This is going to be a weekend where we find out, all right, is this a serious contender, or were they just inflated from the early season, schedule?
Yeah, we'll get a new AP poll on the afternoon. Of course, the coaches and everything will just fucking do what they do every week and just copy it. So what about you, Bo? What's your Sunday storyline there?
Well, it kind of goes off a little bit, ties into what Mikey was saying, but I think that really it's going to come down to, is Florida a contender for the ACC championship game? Because it's the Georgia, Florida, who's gonna represent there, and so I think that really it's going to come down to, all right, is Florida going to go? If Florida beats LSU, then Florida's got every chance in the world to go to the SEC championship game, and if they're able to beat whoever represents from the West, Alabama probably.
Only Georgia to go in their division, so
yeah, exactly. So it'd be one of those things where, if they're able to win the SEC championship game, then you're talking about, okay, well, you've got maybe a 1-loss Alabama and a no-loss Florida. Are we keeping both of those, or are we tossing one? I don't know.
Be the second coming of Tim Tebow down there for sure, man. It harkens back to the late 2000s when Florida and Alabama were going at it again. The only two schools in the SEC the two schools in the SEC who have met the most in the SEC title game, going back to 1992 in Birmingham, and 93 in Birmingham, and 94 when Steve Spurrier finally lobbied to get it moved to Atlanta. So, Mikey, there's your SEC information. Horns down. All right, buddy.
Right. That's what we're doing.
That's it right there. Horns down. Go Sooners and everything. Good luck to you guys, and I hope Jalen has a big day. I hope he has a great rest of the season until the CFP. Good night, guys. Thanks for watching. Okay.
Yeah, night.
Yeah, good
Appreciate
night.
it.